Hello again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever it is for yourself at the moment. Yes, we are back again, and another short story for you today. Another nice, quick 10-minute listen. Hopefully you're enjoying these. Today, we're going to look into a little bit of the early history of one of the other characters that we've already met in the game that we've been playing. We're going to look into Lady Seraphina and where she actually got her start as a junior investigator for the Temple of Silor. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy this one. We'll jump right into it now. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. The city of Titan, sprawling and teeming with life, stood as a marvel of civilization on Olyndar's northern coast. Its skyline was a blend of old and new, where towering spires of golden stone rose beside tightly packed rows of timber-framed houses, their peaked roofs coated in colorful tiles. The merchant districts boasted wide, cobbled streets, lined with stalls bursting with exotic wares, silks from the far reaches of the continents, spices that clung to the air with tantalizing sharpness, and jewels that glimmered under the ever-watchful sun. Steam from food carts carrying roasted meats and sugary pastries mingled with the din of bartering voices, creating a cacophony of life that never truly quieted, even in the dead of night. The city's wealth was evident in every gilded corner, from the engraved iron lampposts that lit the streets to the intricate mosaics depicting scenes of prosperity and triumph on the walls of public halls. Yet, for all its grandeur, Titan was a city of contrasts. In the bustling artisan quarters, where the clang of hammers and the hiss of molten metal echoed, children darted between wagons with bare feet, their faces smudged with soot. The harbor district, alive with the cries of gulls and the creak of mooring ropes, carried the salty tang of the sea. But the alleys behind the warehouses reeked of refuse and unspoken deals made in the shadows. Beneath Titan's polished surface lay a labyrinthine underbelly, where narrow, crooked streets twisted like veins into the heart of darkness. Here, the bustling activity faded into whispers and furtive glances, where crime festered in the absence of light and justice often, bent beneath the weight of power. It was in these forgotten corners that secrets were traded like currency, where assassins and thieves flourished under the patronage of those who valued ambition over ethics. Justice, for all its lofty ideals, faltered in the face of wealth and influence. In this vibrant and dangerous city, Seraphina Goldleaf began her calling. She was young, barely 20, but carried herself with a quiet confidence born of faith. The white robes of an acolyte of Celior hung loosely on her slender frame, unadorned save for a single silver pin in the shape of an open book, the symbol of her god. She moved with purpose, a leather satchel slung over one shoulder, its contents far humbler than the armor or weapons of Titan's city watch. Within were the tools of her trade: parchment for notes, quills for recording truth, vials of holy water to ward against unholy interference, and a small journal bound in soft blue leather, a gift from her mentor. Though her outward appearance was simple, there was something striking about Seraphina. Her sharp almond-shaped eyes, a deep emerald hue, seemed to pierce through falsehoods with an intensity that unnerved even the most practiced liars. Despite her youth, she spoke with an authority that belied her rank, her voice calm but firm, as though each word was carefully weighed before being spoken. The city watch, with their chainmail and swords, often underestimated her. To them, she was just an assistant, a junior investigator sent by the church to comb through records or question witnesses, useful for filing reports, but hardly a threat to the city's criminal underworld. But those who worked with her quickly realized that Seraphina's most formidable weapon was her mind. She had an uncanny ability to piece together fragments of information, to see patterns where others saw only chaos. And perhaps most importantly, she was fearless. Her faith in Salior, the god of knowledge and truth, was not merely a devotion. It was her compass, her armor, and her sword. She believed that the light of truth could pierce even the darkest corners of Titan. and she was determined to carry that light herself, no matter the cost. Where others hesitated, afraid of angering the powerful or stirring trouble where it was best left undisturbed, Seraphina pressed forward. To her, every unanswered question was a crack in the foundation of justice, and she was determined to find the truth, no matter how deep she had to dig, or how dangerous the answers might be. Though her title was humble and her resources limited, Seraphina's unyielding faith and sharp intellect burned brighter than any badge of authority, illuminating the path of justice in a city where shadows sought to consume it. The first victim was found in the artisan district, slumped over a workbench. He was a master jeweler, known for crafting intricate silver amulets. The cause of death: a single stab wound to the heart, the weapon a slender silver dagger left at the scene. By the time the second body turned up, a merchant from the harbor district, killed in the same fashion, the city watch grew alarmed. Murmurs of a serial killer began to spread, and Seraphina was assigned to assist in the investigation. Her superiors, however, made it clear she was to observe and assist only. "This is a delicate matter," they told her. "Leave the big decisions to those with more experience." But Seraphina had no intention of standing idly by. The third murder struck closer to home, a scholar from the library of Celior killed in his private study. It was this death that ignited Seraphina's determination. She spent hours poring over the victims' lives, searching for connections. The common thread was elusive but undeniable. Each victim had ties to a shadowy group known as the Silver Veil. Rumored to be a cabal of wealthy elites dabbling in forbidden magic, the Silver Veil was whispered about in hushed tones, even among the city's upper echelons. When Seraphina presented her findings to her superiors, they dismissed her theories. "These are dangerous accusations," they warned. "Focus on the immediate evidence and let the matter rest." But Seraphina could not let it rest. Late one night, Seraphina found herself in the library of Celior, poring over records of historical crimes. By chance, or perhaps divine guidance, she stumbled upon an old case file detailing a ritual murder eerily similar to the recent killings. The file mentioned a forbidden text, the Argent Codex, a tome thought long destroyed. If the Codex still existed, it could explain the murders and tie them directly to the Silver Veil. Seraphina sought out Father Aldrich, an elderly cleric known for his encyclopedic knowledge of rare texts. After much persuasion, he admitted the Codex had been smuggled into Titan years ago and stored in a private collection. The owner? Lord Garin Velstrade, a prominent nobleman with deep ties to the city's elite. When Seraphina presented her findings to the head of her order, she was met with stony silence. "You will cease this line of inquiry," she was told. "Lord Velstrade is a respected patron of the Church. You risk bringing disgrace upon us all." Seraphina was outraged. How can we serve Celior if we turn a blind eye to the truth? Her protest was met with a cold stare. "You are dismissed, acolyte." But Seraphina had no intention of giving up. That night she slipped out of the church, armed only with her faith and her wits. Seraphina infiltrated Lord Velstrade's estate under the cover of darkness, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The grand manor loomed like a monolith against the starry sky, its towering windows glowing faintly with candlelight. The estate's manicured gardens were eerily silent, the statues of long-dead ancestors seeming to watch her every step as she crept through the hedges and over the low stone wall. She moved with care, her soft boots making no sound against the damp grass. The satchel at her side felt heavier than usual, weighed down by the holy water, blessed charms, and notes she had prepared for this moment. The hidden chamber was not easy to find. It was concealed behind a false wall in the wine cellar, accessible only by a cleverly disguised mechanism, a silver lever carved to resemble a vine. Seraphina had spent hours deciphering the clues that led her here, piecing together scraps of information from old blueprints, servant whispers, and Velstrade's own cryptic writings. Her breath caught as the hidden door slid open with a low groan, revealing a staircase that descended into the earth. The air grew colder with every step. The scent of damp stone mingled with something far more sinister, the metallic tang of blood. At the bottom of the staircase, the hidden chamber opened before her, dimly lit by flickering candles placed in a circle around a central pedestal. Atop the pedestal rested the Argent Codex, its silver-bound pages open and glistening with arcane script. The text pulsed faintly as though alive, and the page she saw depicted a ritual involving blood sacrifice and the summoning of an ancient spirit bound to Silva. Her stomach churned at the sight. The room reeked of malevolence, and a heavy, oppressive energy pressed down on her shoulders like an invisible weight. She took a step closer and froze. Velstrade was there. The nobleman, whose wealth and influence cloaked him in an air of respectability, stood beside the pedestal, his eyes gleaming with a predatory light. Two cloaked figures flanked him, their faces obscured by deep hoods. They worked methodically, inscribing runes into the floor with silver dust, the lines shimmering faintly in the dim light. On an altar near the pedestal lay a young woman, bound and gagged, her wide, tear-filled eyes darting around the room in silent terror. Her pale skin was stained with bruises, and a shallow cut on her arm trickled blood into a shallow basin etched with sigils. Serafina's heart clenched. This wasn't just a ritual, it was a travesty, a perversion of life itself. Velstrade's voice was calm, almost reverent, as he recited the incantation. But when Serafina stepped into the room, the air seemed to shift. Her presence, though quiet, disrupted the dark harmony of their ritual. Velstrade looked up sharply, his sneer cutting across his face like a blade. "You should have stayed silent, little cleric," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. He reached into his robe and drew a silver dagger, its wicked edge gleaming in the candlelight. The design was unmistakable. It matched the murder weapon Serafina had found at the earlier crime scene. "You've meddled long enough." The cloaked figures turned toward her, their hands crackling with arcane energy. The room buzzed with the growing hum of magic, but Serafina did not falter. Her grip tightened on the holy symbol around her neck, and she whispered a prayer to Celior, her voice steady and resolute. "By the light of truth, I will not allow this." As she spoke, a radiant glow enveloped her, casting long shadows on the chamber walls. She raised her hand, and a burst of divine light erupted from her palm, flooding the room with brilliance. The cloaked figures cried out as their enchantments shattered, their arcane energy fizzling into nothingness. Velstrade staggered back, shielding his eyes, his sneer replaced by a snarl of rage. Seizing the moment, Serafina dashed toward the altar. She worked quickly, her fingers deftly untying the bonds that held the young woman. "Run!" she urged, guiding the captive toward the staircase. The woman hesitated, her eyes wide with fear, but a firm push from Serafina sent her stumbling up the stairs toward freedom. The distraction gave Velstrade the opportunity he needed. With a guttural roar, he lunged at Serafina, his dagger aimed for her heart. She spun just in time, the blade grazing her shoulder and tearing through her robe. Pain flared, but she clenched her teeth and stood her ground. Velstrade was fast, his strikes precise, but Serafina's movements were fueled by purpose. She parried his attacks with her staff, each strike resonating with the clang of metal against enchanted wood. The fight was brutal. Velstrade's strength was unnatural, enhanced by whatever dark pact he had forged, and every strike he made carried the weight of his desperation. But Serafina's faith did not waver. She called upon the divine power of Celior, her words a litany of truth and justice. Her staff began to glow, its light pushing back the shadows that clung to Velstrade like a second skin. With a final desperate swing, Serafina struck the dagger from Velstrade's hand. He snarled and lunged at her, but she raised her hand, calling forth a prayer that resonated with the very essence of her being. Glowing chains of light erupted from the ground, wrapping around Velstrade and binding him in place. He struggled, roaring in fury, but the chains held firm, their radiance burning away the darkness that had corrupted him. Serafina stepped back, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Blood trickled from the wound on her shoulder, but her grip on her staff remained steady. She looked down at Velstrade, his face twisted with rage and defeat. "Your lies end here," she said, her voice steady despite the pain. In the quiet that followed, the light of Celior filled the chamber, dispelling the lingering shadows. The Argent Codex, its power disrupted, lay inert on the pedestal, its pages still but no longer pulsing. Justice had been served, But Seraphina knew this was only the beginning of her journey. The city watch arrived shortly after, alerted by the captive woman. With the evidence from Velstrade's chamber and the testimony of the survivor, the case against the nobleman was airtight. The Silver Veil's influence crumbled as its members were exposed and arrested. Though Seraphina had defied orders, her bravery and determination were impossible to ignore. The Church acknowledged her actions as a testament to Celior's ideals of truth and justice. The people of Titan hailed her as a hero, and her name became synonymous with integrity and courage. In recognition of her service, the city's ruling council bestowed upon her the title of Lady, granting her both land and influence. From that day forward, Lady Seraphina Goldleaf became a beacon of hope in Titan, a reminder that truth and justice must always prevail, no matter the cost.